Hey, how's it going? Drossi here. So 9.1 is just around the corner, finally coming sooner and also later than a lot of us predicted. But either way, it's coming. And season 2, right? Shadowlands season 2 starts just 1 week after that, right? Exactly 1 week on the next reset. So the moment that hits, we want to be ready to start grinding games in as soon as possible. We all know that start of season is where most of the players are playing, where you can get the best kind of games in, short queues, ball games, all sorts of things like that. So we want to take advantage of that if we can. And there's a ton of changes coming in, right? There's patches for every single healer, right? Every single healer is being changed, every single class is being changed. And there's a big honor talent rework. Okay, so tons of new honor talents being introduced for a lot of classes, and I think there's gonna be big changes in the meta for 9.1. And so that's what I'm bringing today. I'm gonna be bringing you my predictions for what the healer meta is gonna be in 9.1, specifically for RBGs, okay? Just for RBGs, because it's very different from what Arena is gonna look like. Now, please note that once again, it's just predictions, okay? So take it with a grain of salt. Like, we want to prepare as best as we can with this information, but even the best players, I'm not saying I am the best player, but even the best players like routinely get predictions wrong. It's just how it is, right? No one can really predict the meta perfectly. We can only guess the best of our ability. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. Very first on the list here, we have Disc Priest. Now, Disc Priest, as we all know, was king of RBGs in 9.0. Every team took 2 Disc Priests. That's just how good they were. They're really good at massive healing, pumping out numbers, and just like big damage reduction cooldowns. The changes they're getting is mostly like small nerfs, small buffs here and there, really not impactful stuff. But the really big one that hurts us, that hurts Disc Priest, is the nerf to Radiance. So Radiance used to get a buff to 250% with the PvP talent, and now that talent is only increasing by 150%. So it's actually quite a big nerf. But even with this big nerf to Radiance, I'm going to put this Priest in S tier, okay? I'm fairly certain this Priest is still going to be the best healer in RBGs, okay? Not just S tier, but the #1 in S tier. And that's because of the way the kit works with 10 players, right? So with 10 players out, your atonement healing is basically multiplied by 10 times, right? In Arena, you get 3 atonements out. In RBGs, you get 10, potentially, right? And no matter how much damage you do, it's the same damage, right? So you're always casting Purge, Weaken, and Penance, Smite, and whatever. But it's multiplied tenfold because of how many players are in RBGs. And that just means the numbers for, like, just the raw HPS of this Priest is so massive. The mana efficiency is crazy, and you just can't be out-healed, right? On a map like Silver Shard Mines or Battle for Gilneas, where there's just constant big team fights, this Priest just single-handedly swing the entire game because they heal so much. Just unstoppable healing beasts. And they also have great cooldowns, right? Like Dome, it's just the best cooldown in the game by far. Like 50% damage reduction for your, for like half your team. A minute and a half cooldown, like it's shorter than most other big cooldowns, and like it swings team fights, right? You time a Dome well, and then you just survive the entire go. We're keeping all of that. Radiance is getting nerfed, so it's going to hurt us a bit in terms of our overall healing, but in big team fights where our strength lies, most of our healing is coming from Atonement anyways, which is actually getting a slight nerf, or slight buff, I mean, because it's being taken out of Trinity. I mean, we'll probably still take Trinity, but either way, this Priest is still going to be S tier. Next healer on the list here, we have Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin also probably the second best healer disc in 9.0. Always taking one of them, they're great with their cooldowns. They have Sack, which is super useful. But in 9.1, they are getting nerfed. Their damage is getting hit pretty hard, which is not too big of a deal, but it definitely hurts because healer damage matters. Healer damage matters a lot. Like this Priest, I can routinely, out damage a rogue or something, and not because the rogue is bad, because they're playing objectives, but it goes to show that the damage you do is actually pretty significant. And Holy Paladin damage being hit definitely hurts them. Their mana is getting a little worse also, and their healing is kind of being changed around. It seems like more into Flash of Light. Now, Flash of Light is going to be great to keep people alive, but it's not going to be great for your mana efficiency. I just think in big, long fights, Holy Paladin is going to have trouble keeping mana up and struggle with that, and that's a big win con for a lot of teams, right? Any kind of rot comp just wants to burn heals out of mana. Because of these nerfs to Holy Paladin, where it really hurts in RBGs in the mana department, and just also how the other heals are shaping up, I'm going to put Holy Paladin actually in B tier. I think they're kind of be underperforming slightly, and even now I think they're not mandatory like disc priests are in the a healer comp, but I think it's going to be even worse in 9.1, so I'm dropping them down to B tier. Alright, next we have Holy Priest. So Holy Priest, the biggest change, okay, and this is actually a massive, not even PvP talent, just a massive change overall, is Symbol of Hope is now, when you cast it, reduces your entire team, right, so all 10 members, cooldown of a defensive ability by 1 whole minute. Okay, that's absolutely insane. The cooldown of the Symbol of Hope is like 5 minutes, so you'll get like 3, maybe 4 in 1 BG, but every time you cast it, you essentially reduce almost 10 minutes of cooldown from the main defensive ability of your team, okay, and that's insane. Like, I can see this change in itself just being like enough to bring a Holy Priest, right? So you're gonna have your big team fight, everyone pops all their defenses, Holy Priest uses Symbol of Hope, and you get all your defenses back 1 minute faster. That means it's gonna like desync with the enemy's damage. It's gonna be just so useful in winning a big team fight. In addition to that, Holy Priests were already pumping heals before. They have all the utility of this priest like purges and these grips, so it's really useful in RBGs. And they also bring Ray of Hope, which is like, the poor man's version of Ultimate Sack. Not as good as Ultimate Sack, obviously, but still almost just as useful in the right situation where you need tank to survive or someone's supposed to survive, and you just Ray of Hope them, they're invincible for 6 seconds, and you can try to recover after that. I predict that Holy Priest is actually going to take the place of Holy Paladin in 9.1. I'm going to put them into A tier here. They're going to bring a ton of healing, and just the raid utility of Symbol of Hope is just going to be so massive, and they're going to be like the main tank healer coming in. Alright, next we have Mistweaver. Okay, so Mistweaver is the class that gets the most changes by far. Okay, so almost throughout the board, they're getting a massive damage buff, like to all their abilities. Big damage buffs, which is going to be really nice for them. They're also getting a little bit of mana buffs to some of their abilities, and Revival is actually going to proc Mastery now, so Revival is going to heal a ton. But what's important is they're getting so many new Honor talents, okay, and really good ones too. So they're getting Honor talents to reduce like Cocoon cooldown, which is their main big defensive, so pretty great for keeping your party targets alive. They're getting talents to cover their biggest weakness, which is actually their squishiness, right? So usually when you see a Mistweaver on the other team, it's like, that's our kill target. We're going to kill the Mistweaver. Because they're easy to kill, they can't cast anything outside of into a stun, and they're kind of just like, don't have that much defensive, they have like 1 wall. Like their main defensive is basically their mobility, where they run away from you. But in RBGs, it's a little bit harder to hug the pillar, just because they're not as well defined. And people, obviously, it's like a big clump of fights, so people can catch you and actually kill you. So you can't really use your mobility as well as you can in Arena. But Mistweavers are going to get new talents to help them while they're stunned. Okay, so if you can no longer be killed while stunned, they have one talent which gives them a wall while stunned, basically, automatic, and one which lets them port while they're walled, or while they're stunned. So with these talents in mind, if you can't kill a Mistweaver in a stun, then they can kind of just survive, pump heals, and just be really mobile and be like very mana efficient also. They're also getting a new PvP talent, which is just so insane, which is when you cast Renewal, it makes your entire team immune to magical damage and effects for 2 seconds, right? Everyone immune for 2 seconds. That's so big. Like, it's actually insane. I feel like people who aren't aware of this ability, like teams who aren't aware of this ability, are just gonna wipe entire team fights to it. It also reduces the cooldown of Renewal by 50%. Sorry, am I saying Renewal? I mean Revival. Yeah, everyone knew that. I don't mean Revival. Revival is still going to be a little scary because of Unstable Affliction, but it's actually going to be a massive healing cooldown with this new PvP talent, and it's actually going to be worth using. So monks, I'm going to put them into A tier. I'm actually going to put them above the Holy Priest because they pump a lot of healing in team fights. They're very mobile, so they can peel really well, right? But that's the biggest issue with priests, is that they're so slow, right? You can never get to a base. You get hit with the chains of ice, and you're basically stuck at the base forever. Next, we have the Resto Druid. So Resto Druid actually has really high HPS, right? I've seen Resto Druids who pump really big numbers. They actually heal a lot. The only issue with Resto Druid is that their healing is not burst enough, right? They don't have enough healing cooldowns to really recover from big damage. If like you're in a big team fight, 5 of your guys get chunked down to half, Resto Druid just can't deal with it, right? You can't just like press Radiance and heal everybody, or press like revival or like, you know, you heal everyone up with like essence font or something, like you have wild growth, but it's just too slow. You know, all your healing being hots. Maybe if you pre-hotted everybody, they'd live and you get good healing, but it's just risky. And with all the melee cleaves running around, all the red paladins running around, like Red Paladin comes in with Sanctified Wrath and just chunks your whole team down, and Resto Druid is going to have a lot of trouble picking them up. Resto Druid is getting a couple changes. They're getting a talent to actually make their Cyclone do a Mortal Stroke effect, which is really, really cool. This is the only healer to be able to reduce another healer's healing, which I think is really useful. And of course, Resto Druid has tons of utility, like bear form so they don't die, and cat form to get stuns out, good peels, you know, invisibility. But all this utility is so awesome in Arena, but in RBGs, it's just not as impactful, right? In RBGs, each individual, of course, doesn't contribute as much because you got 3 healers who are pumping heals. And if you can go out to CC one person, it's great, it's useful, but it doesn't make up for the weaknesses of Resto Druid like it does in Arena. So because of that, I'm going to put Resto Druid in C tier. I don't see them being picked up that much, especially because people don't even like them right now, and I think not that many people have like Resto Druid that they're geared up and they're playing. And I think it's going to stay that way in 9.1. Next, we have Resto Shaman. So Resto Shaman actually isn't getting that many changes in 9.1, and especially not for RBGs. Resto Shaman is a class where how it is right now in RBGs is they just kind of die. They kind of just flop over and die. And that's a big issue that they have. Like, they don't have good mobility. They can't, like, you know, peel out and run away as easily. And their insta-cast self-heals and their defense is just not enough to keep themselves alive, right? Like, priests, the moment you touch them with a melee attack, they have a 30% wall permanently. Mistweaver can always, like, you know, dash out of the way. Holy Paladin, of course, is Holy Paladin, has tons of defensives for themselves. Resto Shaman, they didn't get any changes on the defensive side, and I'm worried that, same as in 9.0, like, you bring these guys to an RBG, and they're 60 DPS players, and they target him and he just dies. He just gets killed. He can't peel out fast enough. The new honor talents are pretty cool. Like, they have this new Unleash Shield talent, which is pretty cool. You can reduce damage and healing of players. But I don't think it's enough to bring them out. So Resto Shaman, I'm going to put in C tier as well. Now, I want to make a note here, okay? So even though this is the rankings of what I predict, I feel like the C tier and S tier is not that much of a difference, okay? Like, Resto Druid and Shaman are definitely viable. Totally viable, you know, into 24, into hero, for sure. I think overall, the healer balance is actually pretty good in RBGs right now. People really like to take double disc, and it is nice to have double disc, but it's not mandatory. You know, there are teams that do really well, even with Mistweaver 9.0 when they aren't that good yet. And really, I recommend you to play what you want to play. It might be a little hard to get into groups because, especially in lower groups, people are just really care about the meta, right? But yeah, don't take this tier list to mean that you shouldn't play these classes in RBGs. So there you have it. This is my final tier list for 9.1 RBG healers. In terms of healing comp, I think, like, personally for my teams, I would pick these 3, all right, one of each. So you have 1 disc to just cover the massive healing and the big domes, win team fights. You have your Mistweaver to be the fast peels, and of course, they're also great at team fighting now with huge hots and revival. And they're going to be the ones covering your bases if you need to heal at a base. And then you have the Holy Priest to cover for tank healing, keeping your tank alive, you know, FC with Ray of Hope and Guardian Angel, and just, of course, other priest things like grips and purges. All right, well, there you have it. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or if you disagree, or if you need to make any changes to this tier list. Let me know what you think about this. Guys, like and subscribe to the video if you like this content. 9.1 is coming out, and I have so much stuff in the pipeline, so much stuff coming out. It's going to be super awesome next couple of months. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.